Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking about how India has a BRICS quandary, and this is on the Telegraph website. And really what I think this article is going to talk about is the fact that India is very close to Russia, and it's very close to the United States, but it has some border disputes with China, and quite frankly, I think it's very jealous of China because China is geographically very close to it, demographically has similar sized population, but China is an order of magnitude more successful than India. And so I think India has a lot of hostile feelings towards China because of that. And this is not really historical. They've been neighbors and they've not been particularly hostile with each other for millennia. But right now, India is in a position where it wants to usurp China, but doesn't really want to usurp the United States because it views itself as like almost like a little brother to the United States. It's like really fond of the United States. But let's get into the article and we could talk about it a little bit more. Wait, here it is. Okay. So the inevitable is finally inexorably happening as the government's 9-year-old strategy to isolate, demonize, and brand Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism collapses in front of the global community. Pakistan just showed the middle finger at New Delhi by formally applying for BRICS membership. This is an element I was not expecting the article to take. Okay, so Pakistan is a major Muslim country in the world, and it is the only Muslim country that officially has nuclear weapons. And it has a lot of historical grievances, a lot of historical disagreements with India. And so if Pakistan joins, I think India is going to probably be more belligerent. So historically, and this is a really great thing for Russia and China, Russia has a good relationship with India, China has a good relationship with Pakistan, and because of that, they kind of work to get both on side. But the United States has a good relationship with both as well. And so they're trying to compete with the United States while trying to lessen the hostility that India and China have for each other. Okay, so the article goes on to say, one would presume that Islamabad's able diplomats did the necessary legwork and tested the waters before dispatching the formal application. This comes in the wake of the initiative by South Africa's president to convene a BRICS extraordinary joint meeting on the Middle East situation in Gaza on November 21st, 2023, where External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar stood in for Prime Minister Modi. I've heard Jaishankar on other topics show a high degree of hostility towards China and a high degree of affinity for the United States, which is really unfortunate. Indeed, Jaishankar's remarks were notable for their avoidance of any censuring of Israel for its barbaric attack on Gaza as collective punishment for the Hamas attack of October 7th, which India thoroughly condemned as an abhorrent act of terrorism. Jaishankar instead characterized Israel's bombing of Gaza as the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza. Okay, so one thing of concern here is it's very clear that India has a very hostile relationship towards the religion of Islam, and that's a major sticking point, along with its contentions with China for its continuing relationships with the other BRICS members. And it really puts into debate about which side is India going to be on when it comes to the unipolar versus multipolar world order. Is it going to be on the side of Western civilization against the other 5 or so civilizations, or is it going to be on the other multipolar world order side? Okay, so the article goes on to say he altogether ignored the key issue of an immediate ceasefire. On the whole, Jaishankar's remarks almost entirely reflected the stance of the Biden administration, but what took the breath away was the parting kick he gave to the BRICS audience by stating that the international community is today facing a very complex situation. It has many dimensions. We have to address them all and yet have to prioritize. Okay. Quite possibly, Jaishankar's jab was intended at Russia. He is terrific at shooting arrows from behind the tree, and it was duly noted in Moscow, everything diplomacy has a context, right? When Pakistan's caretaker prime minister, Pakistan never has prime ministers that actually finish their terms, but this prime minister met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Beijing to discuss a host of issues, including terrorism, Middle Eastern affairs, food security. He was the third Pakistani premier to meet with the Russian president over the past year. He was the third Pakistani premier to meet with the Russian president over the past year amid growing economic and diplomatic ties between the two countries. Yeah, they go through a lot of leaders in Pakistan. On November 16th, okay, we can skip that. Okay, so Russia, Pakistan, they're trying to foster ties between each other because they don't historically have as good of ties because Russia has been very close with India. They've intensified their cooperation, and that follows the emergence of virtual U.S.-India quasi-alliance as a veritable geopolitical reality. Russia is moving fast in the direction of hyphenating its respective relationship with India and Pakistan. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, well, it's all up to India where it wants to be in its place in history. So from the Russian viewpoint, Pakistan ceased to be on its crosshairs a long time ago, but out of deference to Indian sensitivities, it kept that relationship on the back burner. But this may no longer be so. From a Russian perspective, Pakistan is a more representative member of the global south today than India, which has bandwagoned with the U.S. across the board. Pakistan's authenticity should be unsurprisingly a major consideration for Russia's current external strategy. Yeah, that's the thing where if you have to choose between India or the Muslim world, I think the Muslim world would be that civilization would be more important for Russia and China to get on board than the Indian civilization, because Indian civilization is just too pro-America and too pro-Israel at this point. There's no question that Pakistan is a sincere votary of multipolarity in the international system. Pakistan no longer seeks to build on its credentials as a major non-NATO ally of the United States. Curiously, the bill was introduced in the U.S. Congress at the beginning of this year by Andy Biggs, a lawmaker who is a member of the Republican Hindu Caucus from Arizona. The bill says that for Pakistan to keep the MNNA status, the U.S. president must submit a certification to the Congress that Islamabad has met certain conditions, but Islamabad couldn't care less. Ooh, that's interesting. Russia certainly takes note of Pakistan's credentials to be an active member of the BRICS, and in all probability, Islamabad proceeded with a formal application of membership after consultation with Moscow. Pakistan enjoys the backing of China, as well as some of the new members who will be inducted in January: Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the UAE in particular. India faces a Hobson choice. Technically, Delhi has a free choice to reject Pakistan's application, but it is delusional to think that multiple choices exist. Blocking Pakistan's application on account of alleged support of terrorism will only be seen as an act of petulance in such extraordinary times when India also finds itself on a hot tin roof. I don't know that thing. Close on the heels of Canada's allegations of Indian involvement in the killing of Palestinian separatist Najjar comes the reported U.S. demarche, with the Indian government leveling a similar allegation as per a disclosure by the Financial Times, which is widely regarded as close to the Biden administration. Okay, so this is how America does things, where it will try to get you on side, and then it'll make it clear what the threat is if you're not on their side. And the threat here is they're going to sanction India. They're going to bring India to account for this separatist murder. Okay? And so they do this all the time, where they'll accuse places like Saudi Arabia of human rights violations, but then they'll still work with them. And then the human rights violations, they'll only act on those supposed violations whenever these countries don't do what the United States says and what the United States wants. So the article goes on to say, in an interview with the BBC 2 days ago, the Financial Times reporter repeated his claims that a team from Washington had visited Delhi to counsel India to refrain from any such criminal act. He said what remains unknown at this point in time is only as to whether the allegation operation was called off at the last minute or whether FBI successfully aborted it. Such Western media coverage is highly damaging to India's self-projection as a staunch follower of international laws and an abiding loyalist of the supposed rules-based order. In the present case, it may look as if India is throwing stones at Pakistan from a glass house. Why is there such a groundswell of opinion in favor of Pakistan within the BRICS tent? Simply put, a perception has gained ground which has been assiduously propagated by the Western media to the effect that Modi government is a reluctant member of the BRICS grouping, and it's becoming more likely that it actually is a reluctant member of the grouping. Arguably, the more BRICS endeavors to remodel the U.S.-dominated financial and trade architecture, the greater becomes India's reservations about the grouping, which we are definitely seeing. The heart of the matter is that India is no longer enamored of the BRICS as a vehicle challenging the U.S.-dominated international institutions, when Delhi is content with being a status quoist, so long as Washington embraces it as an indispensable partner. And they're willing to do this because so many Indians are in charge of American tech companies. That's kind of like the exchange that's going on here, where it's like India is willing to be a subservient member of the American-led order as long as Indians within America are in positions of some degree of power. But again, they're never going to be in charge of things like the banking cartels. The Zionists are very clearly in charge of that. And so India is always going to be a subservient member. They're never going to have the opportunity to be triumphant. They're never going to have the opportunity to be the best country. And that's really, I would say, pathetic that they are willing to go for kind of like a second place or maybe even third place trophy, depending on how you look at it, instead of fighting to be the best in a multipolar world. I think they recognize that they're never going to be the best compared to China, and they just don't want to have such a strong country on its border. And so they're willing to throw all in and be third place in a world order led by the Zionists and the United States. So this article wraps up with, this contradiction is not easy to resolve. Logically, India no longer belongs to the BRICS, but quitting BRICS is also non-option as India gains out of its membership, although it is hardly making any significant contributions to the advancement of the group. The good thing about Pakistan's BRICS membership will be that it tilts the balance within the grouping in favor of a transformative agenda and makes it more homogeneous. Okay, so that's a really interesting article here in Indian Punchline. And if you found this video to be informative, helpful, eye-opening, please give us a thumbs up. Please promote our channel to anyone who you think might be interested in it. We are being suppressed in the algorithm, and so any getting the word out would be very helpful for us. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble, and leave us a comment in the comment box below. Questions, concerns, critiques. I do read all of them, and I do comment when it seems necessary. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.